Welcome back to my little tutorial in which I'm showing how to build a Clojure reactive web application that can be run in the Google App Engine infrastructure. So what we're starting off is our little basic template or basic project that we created last time. And now I'm going to show what things we have to change to make it run on Google App Engine, since App Engine doesn't allow everything. Like, for example, you can't create files or access files in the file system. You can't spawn any threads, and that's why we need to adjust our project a bit. So first of all, what I made is I made this a GitHub repository, so we can see in the end which things we've updated, so we don't miss a thing. And okay, so let's start. First of all, we're going to try to have this application run on our local Google App Engine server that is being shipped with the App Engine SDK. Well, that expects that we are going to have a WAR file, an exploded WAR file. So we have to do three things. We have to build a WAR file from our project. We have to extract it again, and we have to add a this deployment descriptor for App Engine, which we can just copy from a different Java project and adjust only the idea of the project or application name, and then it's going to be fine. So what we're going to start with is adding the ring, a plugin called Line Ring, which provides a method how to build a WAR file from our application. Maybe this can be optimized, and because it's not really convenient yet, maybe this can be optimized so we can build the exploded WAR file directly without going this way. But I've not been checking out how to do this yet. Well, we have to provide our project then with the configuration that this plugin expects, which means we have to tell it where the handler is, the ring handler, and that's this one here, which is in the server CLG file. So we're providing it with Chestnut gae.server/http handler. That's it. Great. Another thing we need to do is tell our ClojureScript compiler where the main entry point of the ClojureScript is. That's, by the way, in the course CLJS file, and means that we're going to tell it Chestnut gae.core. Okay, well, another thing related to this is we have to call our main function explicitly, since that's not going to happen otherwise. Okay. Yeah, well, no. We go back to our Clojure file, and now what we're going to have to do is Sadly, we have to remove the defaults, the ring defaults from the project, and also the ring adapter, the Jetty adapter, because otherwise, when starting this project in the production environment of Google App Engine, it will complain about some access permissions or violations of access permissions, and that's why we have to get rid of it. Well, the problem actually is that all the functions below here are needed for our development process. So it would be sad to throw them out, because that would really hurt ourselves during development. So what I'm doing is I create a new Clojure file, server dev. Where does this come from? Kidding? Server dev CLJ. Okay, there it is. Okay. So then what I'm going to do is taking a whole lot, copy it all over, throw out the dev template, the handler stuff, throw out the gen class stuff, and then have a look at, well, first adjust the namespace and then have a look at all the requires here, whether we need them or not. IO is not needed. Well, but actually instead of that we need to require the Chestnut GAE.server namespace, and then refer to the HTTP handler via that namespace. Oh, and by the way, adjust this as it doesn't match anymore otherwise. So let's have a look. We need this. We don't need this. We need the browser REPL actually, because that's what we're going to call when we are in the REPL. And we also need that fig wheel stuff. The dev route stuff is not being used in here. Neither is the resources or dev template stuff. What about this? We need this in here. We need... No, we don't need the reload stuff. We don't need the default stuff, because we're going to have to throw it out anyway. We're using this, and we're using this. So that should be it. Going back to the old file, we throw out the part that we now have in the new file. First of all, and remember that, or take note of that, I'm going to remove the gen class statement over here. We have to adjust the project file later on to match this. IO is being used here. IsDev is being used. Inject dev mode is being used, but browser wrapper is not being used, so we remove it. And the fig wheel stuff is also not being used. Dev routes is being used. Resources, dev templates is being used. Auto reload is not being used. Reload is being used down here. Wrap defaults, well, we have to get rid of that in a second, so I'm just commenting it out. environment is not being used and run jetty is not being used. So, another thing, we have to get rid of wrap defaults, as I mentioned. So, that's going to be killed out of here. Okay. So we adjusted this. Now we're gonna go back to our project Clojure file, and first thing we need to do is go to, well, first we have this statement REPL options, and we probably want to adjust this to start in the new namespace, which is the dev namespace when we're starting our REPL. Second thing is we have to remove this main definition in the configuration for building the jar file, because we removed the Gent class because we don't need it. Okay, and another thing that's left to do is we need to update some versions of packages. I'm going to update this to the most recent version at the time of this writing, because leaving these at the old, well, we need to get rid of this one completely. What was it I wanted to say? Oh yeah, because what I've seen is when you leave it at the old versions, what will happen is you will get errors when deploying this thing into production App Engine infrastructure, because some kind of library or plugin here is trying to access the file system. I've not figured out which one, but when you update it to the current versions, then it's working. So we'll leave it at that for the moment. So this one. Well, the only thing that we leave at the current version, or at the version that's being configured here, is the piggyback dependency for the dev profile, because otherwise with the new 0.2 version it's not working currently, but that will probably be fixed soon. Okay, I think, let me think and once more. I think that's it. Yeah. Let's have a try. Oh yeah, well, now I'm going to show you what let's first build the war file. That's being done by calling line ring überwar, and what it does is gather all the dependencies, put them into a jar file that we can use to deploy our application to the Google App Engine. So that takes a moment. By the way, when you upload your application the first time to Google App Engine, to the servers, to the live system, then it's going to take forever, because you will see later it's about 2,000 files that need to be uploaded, and it's awfully slow, so that's going to take half an hour or something. But luckily the Google App Engine tools are smart enough to only upload the files that have been changed since the last time, so subsequent uploads are much faster. Okay, so now what we have is a target directory with our war file, with, strangely enough, has a jar extension instead of a war extension, but we don't care about that. Now what I do usually is I create a directory, targets /war. I move into the directory, and then I call jar, the jar command, to extract the Chestnut jar into this directory. What we find then is a meta-inf and a webinf folder. What we need to do is copy well, what we see here is a deployment descriptor that we have in the webinf folder already. That's been generated by the Ring plugin. But we need a Google App Engine deployment descriptor as well. That's a requirement from Google App Engine. So what I did, I just copied it from another project where originally I had it from some kind of Java tutorial for Google App Engine. So you can basically use that and adjust it a bit. The only thing, let's have a look. The only thing you have to adjust is usually the application tag ID, which is the project ID that you chose when you created your your Google App Engine project in your App Engine web interface. I leave the version at 1. I leave the thread safe value at true, and so that means we can now try to run the local App Engine server with this project. We see it does something. It runs the Jetty, and it tells us it has successfully started at localhost port 8080. So let's have a look. Wow. Okay, that's nice. Also no JavaScript errors. Obviously that's working. Well, but the local server is always quite cooperative. Usually you encounter the errors only when you're trying to upload it to the live system, because that's more restrictive. That's checking whether you're accessing files or anything like that. And the dev server might not be that restrictive regarding checks. So we try to upload it. Update. By the way, these are commands that you get, or that are being shipped by the Google App Engine SDK, if you're wondering. But you should be aware of it if you have deployed a Google App Engine's application before. So now here you see what I mean. Okay, it's still 185 files that I need to upload now, and that's already taking a lot of time. It's only 270 kilobytes and it's taking minutes. Well, usually, but usually it's not that bad, because you won't do that too often, especially not during developing your application. On the other hand, you have to say, because of the differences of the local app server and the live system, you may want to do this once in a while and check if you're encountering problems on your live system while your dev system is still saying everything is fine. As I said, most of these things that I've now adjusted in the project files, I have only discovered when I was trying to upload the application to the live server, and I didn't encounter any problems during deployment in the local dev server. So yeah, it sounds a bit, or it feels a bit inconsistent, to be honest. Okay, well, still more files to upload. When we're done with this, it means that your application runs on the App Engine server, but What we're still missing then, or will be missing then, is on the one hand you can or interactively develop your application, like we saw in the last part of our tutorial. But what you cannot do yet is develop interactively and use Google App Engine services, like for example the data store. There will be another part of the tutorial where I show how to add this to your interactive development cycle. I've already written a blog about that. So if you go to blog.lambda-startup.com, you will find a blog post about how to do this. Okay, but now let's concentrate on this one. It says it has uploaded the application successfully. It's taken long enough. And now we're going to try accessing it. So the first time when you access it, it will take a little while. And if we're lucky, we won't get a server error. Let's be... Okay, now come on. Okay, great. There we are. That's cool. Okay, so that means our Chestnut application, including our reactive components like react.js and ClojureScript, are now uploaded to Google App Engine. If that's not cool, then I don't know. Okay, so we see in the logs here of our Google App Engine interface that it's all okay, as it seems. Great. Okay, so one more thing which we should verify is that we didn't break, with all the things that we did here, that we didn't break our usual development cycle. So what I do is clean, just to make sure that your development cycle is still in place and working. REPL. It's too slow. But as I said, usually you won't have to do this a lot, because you will be in your REPL, you will have your Emacs, or whatever IDE you're using connected to the REPL, and then hack away and not worry about this stuff too much. Okay, so now we are in here. Remember, this is the new namespace that we created before in this file here. And now we have, first we have the run, if you remember our last video, the run function that we call, and the browser REPL function that we call. So first thing, well, let's make sure. So this web page on port 10555 on my local host is still down. We're running it, and it starts. It takes a second to compile the ClojureScript. There it is. Now reload it. Okay, great. Whoops. Okay, once more. Still getting the errors that it can't connect properly to the browser REPL. That's because we haven't started it yet. So let's do it. And it says now it's waiting for the client to connect. can do this, enforce this by reloading the page again, and there we are. So let's clear the console log. Cache return value of undefined. Okay, so what's this? Well, I'm not sure where this error is coming from now. Okay, maybe it has. Okay, I know what the problem is. We have kicked out the ring defaults middlewares, and that's probably the reason for this error message. Well, so you have to add your middlewares yourself one by one instead of using the ring defaults packaged one. Because unfortunately one of those that are included causes the Google App Engine restrictions to blow our application. Well, but that's a minor problem. I haven't looked into it, which one really is the cause of the problem you're encountering when having them activated. Well, maybe that's something I will look into. Probably it is. You can, of course, do that too. Well, what we have in the end here now is an application. That's nice. We can still use it and change it interactively and hack away nicely, while also having it enabled for running on Google App Engine infrastructure.